Welcome to Computing at Home with Digital Schoolhouse. My name is Estelle, otherwise known as ComSci Geek. I'm a computing teacher and I also develop resources for the programme. We specialise in delivering computing workshops that are accessible, educational and fun. You are watching part 2 of our Cryptography Secrets workshop. Ideally, you should have watched part 1 of this workshop before attempting part 2. If you missed out on that, you can watch any of our previously streamed workshops on our YouTube channel. Just search YouTube for Digital Schoolhouse. To all learners watching, remember you can pause the video at any time to take notes, collect your thoughts, or take part in the workshop alongside me. If you do decide to pause the video, just be aware that you'll need to skip it back when you play the video again. The Digital Schoolhouse team are ready and waiting in the chat should you have any questions throughout. I'll also be taking 5 minutes at the end to answer your questions. Parents and guardians, you might want to watch the next bit as it explains how to access our resources, but after that feel free to join in or sit nearby to supervise if you want to. Let's get started. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to need for today's workshop. So at the bare minimum, you are going to need a notepad, a pen and a pencil. You're also going to need a computer because you're going to be accessing some software today. You're going to be using Excel, which is spreadsheet software. If you don't have Excel, you can use one of the other spreadsheet softwares that are out there. I'm going to be doing my demonstrations in Excel, so just be aware that some things might be laid out slightly different, but generally speaking, you'll be able to access exactly what we're doing by using a different bit of software, but we are going to be using Excel for the demonstrations. The other thing that you're going to need is a copy of the case file, which I'll explain where to find in a moment. If you aren't able to access today's workshop because you don't have access to a laptop with spreadsheet software on it, you can still take part in using the case file at the end. This is a paper-based activity and you might want to just come back a bit later and watch the last part of the workshop when we go through the case file. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So as usual, I'll quickly go through how to find our resources so that you're able to find them for taking part in today's workshop. So you will need to go onto the internet, go to digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. That's digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. Oops, I've logged myself in. I'll just log out of that. There we go. And you'll need to go to Resources Live Workshops. Scroll down until you find the section for Cryptography Secrets. If you're doing this on YouTube, you might need to scroll further down the page because obviously it will move as it won't be our current live workshop. Click on where it says Cryptography Secrets. And you'll need to download and either access via your phone or your tablet or print off our case file. So DSH cryptography case file. If I click on that, I'll show you what it looks like. There you go. It's a little booklet. So you need to have that either printed or accessible via your phone or tablet. And if you are going to do that and not print it off, you will need a notepad and pen or pencil or some paper to be able to access that today. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to be learning today. Okay, welcome to the Cryptography Secrets workshop. This is part 2 of a workshop. So if you, as I said earlier, if you haven't watched part 1, we do suggest that you go back and watch that before taking part in today's workshop. Some of the techniques that we're going to be using, particularly in using the case file, need to have been worked through previously, otherwise you might not understand how to do them. So just be aware of that. Okay, so today you are going to be learning a little bit about the structure of a spreadsheet, including columns, rows and cell references. You're going to be learning some simple formula within a spreadsheet using cell references. You're going to be learning about the Boolean and how it is used within spreadsheets. You're going to learn a transposition cipher using a simple spreadsheet. You're going to create and manipulate existing spreadsheets to encrypt and decrypt data. And then you're going to implement a simple lookup and if statement to create more effective encryption techniques. So we're going to be doing quite a lot today using spreadsheets. So we are going to be doing a transposition cipher to start with. So what you're going to need to do for this, you need to open up a spreadsheet application. As I said earlier, I'm going to be using Excel, but if you haven't got Excel, you can use a different spreadsheet software, and that's absolutely fine. And you're going to need to create a table with 4 columns and 7 rows. And then you're going to be entering the message, computing is good for you. And you'll notice I'm using stars or asterisks to represent the spaces between the words. So I'm going to hop over onto my Excel spreadsheet and explain how to do that now. Okay. If you haven't opened Excel before, if it's not something you've done before, if you go to the Start menu, in fact, I'll quickly show you what I'm doing now. If you've never opened Excel before and you're not sure how to find it, if you type Excel into the search bar in the Start menu, you'll find it pops up as a match for you as long as you have it installed on your computer. Click on where it says Excel app, and then it will open for you, ready for you to show and demonstrate and follow along with us on screen. So there is my copy of Excel. Really helpfully, my device telling me that it needs to update and do a restart, but it can't do that now because I'm in the middle of doing a workshop with you guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit because it makes it a bit easier to see what I'm doing, and also hopefully will help you to see more clearly what I'm typing in. So to do that, in the bottom right hand corner there's a little plus symbol. If you click on that, that will allow you to zoom in and make it a little bit easier to follow what I'm doing. So I'm just going to jump back over onto the presentation just for a moment, just to show you again what we're going to do to start with. So if I hop onto the presentation and show you that now. So just to remind you, what we're going to do is we're going to create a table with 4 columns and 7 rows, and we're going to type in computing is good for you, using an asterisk or a star between each word to represent a space. Okay, so that's just a quick reminder of what we're going to be doing. So hopping back into your spreadsheet software so you are ready to do this. So I'm going to pop cap locks on. So normally speaking, I would be encouraging you not to put your cap locks key on to try to get in the habit of using the shift key to access capital letters. But because we're going to type everything in a capital letter in this example, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to type it in, but we're going to type it in by the letters going down. So we're going to type our word in going down. C-O-M-P-U-T-I. So remember, we're only going up to the 7th row. We can see it's the 7th row because there's number 7 there. Then we jump into the next column, N-G. Remember I said to you we're going to use a star or an asterisk to represent the space. Now to access those extra letters, it's actually underneath the number 8 key on your keyboard. If you hold the shift key, and that is the one that's got like an arrow pointing up, it will be, normally it's just underneath your cap locks key. So if you hold that and press the number 8, it will make a star appear. And then I'm going to carry on. So computing, then I'm going to do is. Then I'm going to do another asterisk, so hold shift and press 8 is, oops, I'm going to then go to G, and again I'm going to start a new column. Good. Another space for, and this time a new column with a space at the beginning this time, for you. Now I've got 3 spaces left, so I'm just going to fill those in with asterisks just to make it nice and neat. There we go. So computing is good for you. Now I'm going to have an encrypted version first. Now remember from last time's session, encryption is where it's in its secret message format, in the ciphertext format. So we learned last time that there's encryption and then there's decryption, and encrypted text is the ciphertext. Remember, it's the mixed up text, the text that's hard to read, to understand, the secret message itself. And then there's the decrypted version, which is the plain text, the text that you can read, that's in normal everyday language that you can understand. So remember, we talk about ciphertext as being the secret message itself that's been put into its secret code format, and then the plain text is the message that can be read. Okay, so just remember that as we start to work on this. Okay, so I'm going to first of all do the encrypted version. So I'll take it off cap locks, and I'm going to use my shift key to get the capital letter now. Whoops. So encrypted. And then below that, I'm going to type decrypted. So encrypted means the secret message, decrypted means the message that's been put back into plain text that you can read. Now, we're going to start by using a formula. So I'm just going to hop over to the presentation and explain a little bit more about what we're going to do next in a bit more detail. So formulas are really useful for using in a spreadsheet, and the reason that they're going to be particularly useful for us now is that previously everything we've done so far we've had to do a letter at a time. So if you remember, last time we used a cypher wheel, for example, to encrypt and decrypt a message, but we had to do a letter at a time. Now, the reason that you're starting to use a Excel spreadsheet is so useful is that we can start to make our messages encrypt and decrypt, but by doing the whole message all in one go. So this is going to be a huge time saver for us as we go on to encrypting and decrypting longer messages. So that's why we're taking this step from going from doing paper-based activity to starting to look at how we could encrypt and decrypt using a spreadsheet. So let's have a look at what we're going to be doing. So first I want you to think about is what the word and means. What does it do for us? So hopefully you're thinking that the word and allows you to stick two things together. It means you can add on, you can say also, you can put more things together. Can you think of any alternative words that we could use to describe and? Have a little think, maybe shout them out the screen for me. I hope some of you are saying things like also, as well as, including. So they're all things that allow you to add more detail. So what symbols can you use to represent and? Have a think about that, maybe shout them at the screen again for me. And hopefully you've just said the plus symbol. You might have also said the ampersand. That's that funny sort of thing that looks like a curly 8. And the thing that we're going to particularly be looking is that ampersand, because that's particularly useful for adding things together when we're using an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so let's have a look at how we're going to do that. So we've entered the secret message, which was computing is good for you. And remember, we did it so that to start with, the message could actually be read quite easily as long as you read down the columns. Okay, but what we're actually going to do to encrypt our message, to make it into the secret message format, we're going to make it so that the computer automatically reads across the rows. And we're going to do this by making a formula in our spreadsheet. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to click in the cell B9 and we're going to enter this formula to encode the message. Now, don't worry, it looks quite complicated, but it's actually going to be a lot easier because the computer is actually going to do some of the hard work for us. So watch really carefully and I'll explain what the computer is going to do for us to make it a lot easier. Okay, so don't get panicked in looking at this formula and think, oh my goodness, that's really tricky, because the computer is going to do quite a lot of the hard lifting for us. Okay, so let's hop over into our spreadsheet and start to look at adding the formula. Okay, so you can see I'm already clicked in B9, and the first thing I'm going to type in is an equal sign. So you might have noticed on the PowerPoint presentation that there was an equal sign in front of the formula. That's really important. What the equal sign does is it tells the computer that we're about to write a formula, and a formula is different to a normal bit of text because it's actually getting the computer to do some work for us. So I'm typing an equal sign first, and that tells the computer to get into the mode for doing some calculations and things like that for us. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the cell A1, and I can tell it's A1 because it's in column A and row 1, and I click on it and then I've got that letter selected. Now you'll notice that it's automatically put the cell reference in there for me, so you can see A1 has already gone into the cell for me. So this is what I was saying earlier, don't worry about how complicated the formula looks because the computer is actually going to do some of the hard lifting for us. And you can see that when I click on a cell, if I click anywhere else, it's automatically putting in the cell reference for me. Then I'm going to put that ampersand sign in. So like we did earlier, to access the asterisk, the star symbol, we need to press the shift key to access it. So remember, that's the one that looks like a little up arrow, and it's normally underneath your cap locks key. I'm just going to try something to show you where it is on my keyboard. I've not done this before, so let's hope it works, because I'm going to use the visualizer to show you. So let's just see if this works, because it's going to be quite interesting to see if it does, because I have no idea, because I've not done it before like this, but hopefully this will make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to pop the visualizer just there, and you can see the key that you're going to use is this one here. Can you see it's just below the cap locks key? Okay, so that's the one that you're looking for. Okay, so back to normal now, and hopefully that was just useful for showing you what you were going to be doing. Okay, so we are going to carry on with adding the formula to our spreadsheet. So once we put the A1 in, we're going to hold that shift key like I showed you, and we're going to press the key that is the number 7, because it's got the ampersand key symbol above it. That's the one that looks a bit like a curly 8. And then we're going to click on the next one. So remember, we're going across the rows this time. So we're going to go to B1. Then I'm going to put the ampersand. Whoops, I did the wrong symbol, notice, accidentally. So I'm just going to delete that and put the correct one in. There we go. And then I'm going to go to the next one. Then I'm going to put the ampersand in. And I'm going to do that going through all of the cells that I filled in. So the little rectangles that are used to represent the table in Excel are called cells. So there you go. So I'm going to do another ampersand, and then click on the next one, and another ampersand, and the next one, and another one, and the next one. And you can see I'm just filling these in one at a time. Just take your time over it. You can see that it's been selected because it kind of colour codes it to show that it's been included in the formula. So you can quite easily see if something's been missed. And the next one, whoops, there we go. And then that one. And then an ampersand. That's it. So just take your time over it. If it goes wrong, don't worry. Remember, you can always pause the stream and just take your time on this. If I'm going a little bit faster than you, that's absolutely fine. It's probably just because I've had a little bit more practice. So these kind of things are things just that take a bit of practice. So take your time going through one at a time. So I'm nearly there now. So just going into the last row now. As I said before, if you accidentally pop the wrong symbol in, look there, I've put the wrong symbol again. All I do is I just press the backspace, do the delete button, just delete it, and then put the correct one in. Okay, and then just carry on. So it's not a problem if you make a little mistake. Okay, so that's all of them selected now. So all I need to do now is press the enter key. So I'm going to do another little quick demo with the visualizer to show you where that is. So hopefully this will be nice and easy for you to see. So I'm going to pop it over onto the visualizer. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I am showing you. Whoops, I need to come a little bit further forward. So sorry, it's a bit strange and not quite up the right way. It's one of those things with using a visualizer. So the enter key is this key here. So this is on the, if I turn my visualizer around, there you go. So there's my full keyboard, and you can see it's this one here, just here. Okay, that's your enter key. So that's the one that you're going to need to press to swap back over. Okay, it's for entering the formula, so not for swapping back over. Okay, so let's pop back into Spreadsheet and carry on. So we are just about to enter the formula. So as I said, I'm going to press the enter key to do that. So just press the enter key, and you'll find it switches out from having that formula in there to having the letters that you've typed into your message up here. And it's encrypted because it's a secret formula. It's a secret form of the message. This is the cypher text version. So if I read that, it doesn't really make any sense. I have no idea what that says at all. Okay, so we have completed our encrypted version of our secret message. So let's pop into our PowerPoint and see what we're going to find out about next. Okay, so we've worked out how to do the encoding, the encoded version of our message. But do you have any ideas of how we could decode this simple cipher? So think about the order that you enter the cells and the order you selected the cells in the formula. Anyone got any ideas? So how do we decode the message? So we decode it by doing pretty much the same thing as we did to start with, but rather than going across the rows to, going across the columns to select our message, we're going to go down the rows this time. So I'll explain exactly what I mean by that as we have a go at doing this in our spreadsheet. So this is a really similar activity to what we've literally just done, but instead of selecting the order by going the columns across like that, which is what we just did, we're going to select it in the right order. So we're going to go down the rows. Okay, so before I do it, can you remember what we have to put in first? Because we're going to do a formula again. That's right, it's an equal sign. So I'm going to pop an equal sign in first, and then I'm going to select A1. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did for my encrypted message. I'm going to put an ampersand in, and then I'm going to do my next one, and then I'm going to do my ampersand, and then I'm going to go down the rows one at a time, and this time it's in the correct order to be able to read the message. So I'm going to do the next one, another ampersand, and the next one. Okay, so notice that as when I got to the end of the letters, I just started in the next column. As before, if you make a mistake and you put the wrong symbol in, look, I've just put a star in accidentally, just delete it and put the ampersand in instead. There we go, so just keeping going. So remember, the ampersand is another way of describing the word and. If you want to sound really fancy, in computing, we call what we're doing concatenation. So you can talk about concatenation and wow people with your computing skills. Okay, or your computing vocabulary. So continuing with our concatenation. And I'm nearly there. So got to the end of this one, so I'll do another ampersand and then start the next column. And we're almost there. I'm going to go right to the bottom, same as before. And the next one. Almost there. Remember, if you need a bit more time, just press pause, spend your time that you need. I just did an extra one I don't need, I'm just going to delete that. And as before, exactly the same thing, we're going to press the enter to make the formula entered into the computer so the computer can do the calculation that it needs to do, the process that it needs to do. And there you go. So there is our decrypted version of our message, which says computing is good for you. Okay, so if you want to do a little activity now just to experiment with what you've done and see how well this works, what you could actually do is delete the letters and put your own message in. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to delete all the letters in there for a moment, and you'll see it gets rid of the encrypted and the decrypted message at the bottom. And I'm just going to type in a quick message that says hi. Whoops, I meant to do that. Hi. How? Pop another little star in. Notice it hasn't got a decrypted version, as an encrypted version yet, because I haven't got enough in here yet. Hi, how are, pop the star in. You. Pop another star in. I'm. Starting the new column. I'm great. There we go. So there is my little message that I was going to send as a little secret message. Not quite sure why I need to send it as a secret message, but hey, I'm sure you can think of something that's better as an example. But you can see how really simple that was. So rather than me having to put anything else in, have to change my formula in any way, I could just write the letters in for my second message, and you can see my encrypted and decrypted versions have popped up straight away. So let's have a look at how we can use what we've done so far. If you want to spend a bit of time putting your own encrypted and decrypted messages in, feel free to pause the stream right now and have an experiment with that before you move on to the next bit. But I'm going to move on, so feel free to pause if you want to. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little secret message. So here is my secret message. I want you to see if you can work out how to enter this into your spreadsheet to make it so that you can decrypt it and work out what my secret message actually says. So you're going to need to think really carefully about this because you're going to need to enter it in a slightly different way to how you've done it before. I'm going to give you a little minute to think about it. Remember to pause the stream if you need to. Okay, so rather than entering this by going down the rows like we've done previously, you'll need to enter it in by going across the columns. Okay, so we're doing it in the opposite direction because remember we're going to be reading this in the order like we did with the encrypted version. So it's going to be read in the order by going across the rows. I'm going to quickly show you what I mean by that because it might not quite make sense without actually seeing what I'm talking about. So this version, as you're looking at the message, you're going to be looking at it by reading it across that way. So when you type in your message, the secret message I've just given you, you need to type it in going across the columns like that. Okay, don't type it in going down the rows like we did with the correct message. Type it in by going across the columns. Okay, like that, in that order. That means you'll be able to then decode the message. Okay, so this is another moment for you to feel free to pause the stream. You might want to pause it in just a second with the message up on your screen because you'll need that. So pause it now, then have a go and see if you've got the message correct. So pause it now because I'm about to show the answer. Okay, and the answer was computing at home with DSH. So hopefully you got that correct and you managed to decode the message correctly. So well done if you did. And we're now going to move on and have a look at something slightly different. We're going to look at using a substitution cipher in a spreadsheet this time. So remember, using a substitution cipher allows you to manually encode and decode a message, even really small messages. And we did this using a code wheel, remember before, but that can take a really long time, as we talked about earlier, because you have to do it one letter at a time. It can be really boring. It takes lots of concentration to avoid making mistakes. So using our spreadsheet this time will make our job really much easier, much quicker, and also more accurate. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a substitution cipher. In fact, we're going to be doing a Caesar cipher using a spreadsheet this time. But it's going to be a little bit more detailed, this spreadsheet. We're going to use some slightly more complex formulas, and we're going to use more than one formula. So be aware that this one is a little trickier than the first one that we just did. Okay, I'm sure you'll be fine following along with me, but just be aware that you might want to pause the stream because it's a little bit trickier. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get it to do the encoding and decoding of our message. Now we've got a few bits and pieces that we need to type in to start with to just set up our spreadsheet. So we're going to do the bit that says the code wheel to start with. So we're going to set this up so it's ready to work. So we're going to do the code wheel, we're going to do the letters down here, and we're going to do the numbers next to it. We're also going to type in offset and put a space for the offset to be typed in. Original text, character number plus offset, and ciphertext. So we've got a little bit of setting up to do first. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so hop back over into your Excel spreadsheet. And you are going to need to set up a new one. So I'm going to talk you through how to do that so that we can do that nice and easy. So to do a new Excel spreadsheet, if you want to save this one, feel free to do that now. Feel free to pause if you want to, but we're going to head straight into a new one. So I'm going to go File, then I'm going to click on the word New, and I'm going to double click on Blank Workbook. And that's opened a blank one over the top of my original one. You can see the original one just there, so I haven't lost anything, but feel free to save that previous one if you want to. Okay, so we are going to be setting a few bits and pieces up. I'm going to set things up without zooming in too much to start with, just because I'm aware that I've got quite a lot to fill in on this one, and I don't want to zoom in too much, but I will zoom in a bit later on to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's start by writing in the word code wheel. So I've got cap locks on at the moment because I want to have, oops, there we go, code wheel. So I want to have a little bit of capital letters to start with. And then I'm going to start to put in the alphabet. So A, B, C, whoops. Now, this is something that Excel does automatic for you. If it thinks, it like kind of predicts things. So it thinks that you're going to want to type the word code wheel again because you've done it previously. But of course we don't want to do that. So type the word letter C, delete the bit it's predicting in the grey text, and then just carry on. The other thing that you can do is can also predict things based on like a pattern. So let's see if it can work this one out. Oh no, it's not able to do it. It thinks I want to just repeat the letters of the alphabet. We'll try that again with numbers in a minute. So I'm just going to delete the ones that I've done accidentally. All I'm doing is selecting and pressing the delete key. So again, if you make a mistake, don't worry. If you make a mistake, don't worry, just go back, just delete the bits that you've done. You can always pause the stream and skip it back if you make a mistake. So don't panic if you made a mistake. It's easily done and it's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to type in the rest. So D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Q, R, oops, I typed an E accidentally, so I delete it. Oops, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now, if like me, you need to actually say the alphabet out loud as you're going through, that's fine. If you need to sing the song to check that you've got all the letters in there, that's also fine. There's not a problem with doing either of those things. Then we're going to type the numbers next to them. So A is going to be 1, B's 2, C's 3, etc. And we're going to fill that in next. So let's pop those in. So 1, 2, 3. Now this is where we can start to use that that prediction that it is built into Excel, as I said earlier. So I'm going to highlight. So to highlight, all I'm doing is I click on the first one and I keep hold of the click on my mouse. I'm going to try and show you this with the visualizer again. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So what I've done, whoops, is I've clicked and I'm holding with my mouse. So hopefully if I hop onto the visualizer, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I've clicked and I'm holding with my mouse. So can you see? I've just got my finger down, my finger here, and I've kept hold of it. I've kept pushing down on it. Ignore that. That's for moving the presentation forwards. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'm clicking and holding on my mouse. Okay, so hopping back into the Excel so you can see what I'm doing. So as I said, I'm clicking and holding on my mouse, ready to move down. Okay, so once I've done that, I go into the corner and I'm going to do that click and hold thing. But can you notice that as I move my mouse onto that very corner, there's actually like a little tiny, like a little green square. Can you see that little green square? So as I put my mouse on top of it, it's going to, my cursor, the mouse pointer, turns from a white cross to a black cross. That's it. And once it turns to the black cross, and you do the click and hold thing that I just showed you, and you drag all the way down. But if you do it from just the first one, you'll see it thinks that you're going to fill in the number 1 lots of times, but we don't want to do that. We want to make it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I actually highlight all 3 and then use that little thing in the corner, that's called the fill handle, by the way. Then I use the fill handle and I drag all the way down. You'll notice that it actually starts to do the numbering for me. So how super is that? It makes me really happy because it means it takes less time. So there we go. So I've filled all of those in. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do, I'm just going to hop into the presentation, just remind myself what the next thing looked like and remind you as well, I'm sure. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in a few bits and pieces. So we're going to fill in the offset and we're going to fill in the original text, the character number plus offset, and the cipher text. So we're going to go and type those bits in next. Okay, so let's hop over back into the what we're going to be doing. And so original text, character number. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type the word offset up here. So I've still got cap locks on. So it's going to go into capital letters. So offset. Then we had the, oh, I have to remind myself, I've forgotten already. I'm sure you have as well. If I've forgotten, you must have forgotten. So let's have another quick look. So we have original text, character number. Let's remember those two. Original text and character number. Okay, original text and character number. That's the next two things to go in. So we have original text and the next one is going to be character number. There we go. Let's go and have a look at what the next bit is. We've got 2 more boxes to fill in. So we next have character number plus offset and cipher text. So character number plus offset and cipher text. Let's pop those in. Character number plus offset, oops, and ciphertext. Character number plus offset. So character number, I'm going to use a plus symbol plus offset and ciphertext. Now you can spell cipher with a Y or an I, it actually doesn't matter. Completely up to you. So there we go, we've filled those in. So we've got offset, original text, character number plus offset, and ciphertext. So, oops, I've just noticed I missed out the letter I in original. Let's pop that in now. Original, right, there we go. Okay, so let's have another look at our presentation, because now we're going to start to think about putting some formulas in. So this is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. So if you need to pause the stream, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to do that so you can look at the detail of what we're doing with a bit more time. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so we are going to be popping in a formula in here. So this original text is the letter C, because we're going to type computing is fun. We're going to use that as our example one. And the character number is going to use this formula here. Okay, so into this cell here, into J4, we're going to type in lookup J3, and then we're going to use A2 to A27 and then B2 to B27. So again, this might look a little bit complicated, but I'll explain what's going on. And again, the computer's going to do quite a lot of the heavy lifting for us, so don't worry too much. Okay, so we're going to pop in a letter C for our original text. We're going to type in a number 4 for our offset as well. And then we're going to type in this lookup formula. Okie dokie. So let's go and have a look at how we're going to do this. So hopping back into our Excel spreadsheet. There we go. So as I said, we are going to do an offset of the number 4. I'm going to try, whoops, that's not a 4, that's a 2. There we go. And we're going to type in the original text here. Now I'm going to try and type things in the same location as they appear on the PowerPoint to make things a little bit easier, so we have the same formula. So you might want to do things like just close some of these extra things up so things are in the right place. Okay, so the original text, remember, is the letter C. The character number is where we're going to start to pop in that formula. So we're going to do equals. Then we're going to click on the letter that we want to look up, which is this one here. And then we're going to tell it where we want. Oh, I forgot to type in the lookup bit, didn't I? So equals. Then we're going to do lookup, sorry. So lookup literally means what you think it's going to mean. It means you're going to look up something. So this is a way of typing like a function. You're telling the computer what you want it to do. So we want it to look something up. Then we're going to do a bracket. So this is another one of those examples where you have to hold that shift key. Remember, that's the one that's below the cap locks. And this time we're going to press the number 9. That has the open bracket symbol above it. So equals lookup, open brackets. We're going to click on what we want to look up, which is going to be this letter here, the letter C, and that is in J3. Then we're going to do a comma. And then we're going to select the values where we want it to look up this letter. And this, where we want to look it up is in this bit here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first one and I'm going to click and hold. Remember, I showed you how to do that. It's where you keep your finger on the mouse and you keep dragging down, and we go all the way down to the bottom. And you'll notice that this puts in a little bit of a different cell referencing to what we've seen before. So this A2 colon A27 just means it's going to look up this whole column. Okay, all of the things that we've selected, this whole range of letters. So we're going to do another comma, and then we're going to do the next one. So we're going to click and hold on the 1, and we're going to go all the way down to the 26, and then we're going to let go. And again, I'm going to go up to the top so you can see what I've put in. And then now Excel does some bits and pieces for you. So it's actually, if I press enter now, it will automatically do this for me. It will automatically put the bracket in. But if you prefer, so it's going to put that bracket at the end, but if you prefer, you can press enter now and it will do that for you, or you can type it in yourself. It's up to you what you want to do. So I'm going to hold shift and put the close bracket in. Remember, as I said, if you don't want to do that, press the enter key, it'll automatically do it for you. So what it's done is it's looked up that letter C, it's found it, in our code wheel, it's found the letter C, and then it's got the value of that letter, and it's put it into here for us automatically. Okay, so that's what it's just done. Clever, huh? So what we're going to do is we're going to type in our next letter of our message, which is going to be O, because remember we're going to do computing is fun. And I want you to see if you can do the next formula yourself. So see if you can remember what to do. I'm just going to give you a little bit of time. Feel about for you to pause now, type it in, see if you can remember how to do the formula. And I'm going to show you how to do it if you need it. So pause it now if you need to. I'm going to show you how to enter the formula now. So remember, equal symbol, we're going to do another lookup, and then we're going to do an open bracket, and we're going to click on the one above, we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to select the whole of this column. So all the letters, not the whole column, because that would be the whole thing, but just the letters we want, so the range that we want. We're going to then put in there it is, put a comma in. Then we're going to do the next set of numbers. So click and hold, drag all the way down, same as before. And then, as I said before, you can either just press enter or put the bracket in yourself. If you press enter, it will do it for you. And it should automatically look up the letter O as being the number 15. There we go. So now we can put in the rest of our message. So remember, we're going to do computing. There we go, computing. I'm going to close up to make this a bit easier to read. So if I want to make it smaller, what I can do is I can highlight where I've got those letters. And then if I go up to the little line that's between the letters, can you see as I do that, my cursor changes. It's changed to like a line with two arrows. And if I do a double click when it's like that, it will just close things up and make it a bit easier to read. So computing, leaving a space. Then we're going to do is, oops, only one letter, remember, is good for, leaving a space, you. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to do what I just did before. I'm going to highlight all the way back across. If you find it a bit tricky to do too many letters at once, just feel free to do it with one word to start with, or not worry about putting spaces in and things like that, that's fine. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use something that's really handy in Excel. We're going to use that fill handle again and get it to automatically do some bits for us. So I don't want to have to type in my formula every single time, because it could take quite a long time, and especially as I start to get longer messages, I really don't want to have to type it in every single time, because I'm lazy and I like to get the computer to do all the hard work for me. So I'm going to show you how to do use the fill handle and how to make it so the computer can do, again, a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So let's have a look how we do that. So we're going to use the fill handle like we did before. Remember, the fill handle is that little square that's in the very bottom corner of the cell, and when you put your mouse on top of it, the cursor of your mouse, it turns to a little black cross. Then if you drag across it, remember it will start to predict what you think you want to do. And what it will do is it will grab the formula and it will put it in for you. But we need to do some clever bits and pieces, because when we drag it across, it assumes that we want to go one column to the right with all of our cell references. So you'll see it's automatically moved L to L3, which is what we wanted to do. But these ranges, it hasn't done what we want to do. It's actually dragged those across as well. So we don't want that to happen. We want those to stay the same. So we need to change our formula slightly to do that. And we're going to do that by doing something a little bit clever. Okay, so to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to go, I'm just going to delete that formula and I'm going to go back to the previous one. I'm going to just change the formula slightly so that that can't happen anymore. So you can see it's not gone in correctly because it's got a little hashtag in. So I'm going to delete that and I'm going to go to the previous formula. And I'm going to just make a couple of little changes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a $sign in. So a $sign turns it into something called an absolute cell reference. So now an absolute cell reference won't change when we're dragging things across. And because of what we're doing, we only need to worry about the letters. So you can do this for the letter and the number. So what we would normally do if we wanted to do for all of it is we put a $sign in front of the letter and a $sign in front of the number, but we don't need to do that because we're actually only worried about the letters changing, because when we're dragging across to the right, it would be changing the letter. So we don't need to worry too much about that, and we can just get rid of the, telling me it's nearly lunchtime. We're just going to pop the $ in front of the letter, and we don't need to do it for the first one because we want that one to move, but the rest we don't want to change. So I'm going to hold shift, and it's the number 4 for the $. I'm just going to pop those in to my cell references. So that makes them absolute, which means they won't change. Okay, there we go. And now if I use my fill handle again, I should find, that I can drag across and it should be working. I might need to make my cell slightly bigger. There we go. And now it's working. Can you see? Look, it's kept those two the same, but this one has moved like it should do. And now what I can do is I can drag all the way across, and I can do what I did before just to make it so I can actually read all the letters, all the numbers. I just do a double click and it opens it out a little bit. Now where I've got these NAs, can you see those? Those are where we've got spaces. So we can just go in and delete those because we don't need to worry about those too much. There we go. Okay, so that is all of the character numbers added in for our message. Okay, so let's hop over and find out what we're going to do next. Okay, so hopping back into our PowerPoint and have a look at what we're going to do next. So that's what we've just done. We've worked out how to add in the absolute cell referencing, and I showed you how to do it just for the numbers. So on this example, you can see it's actually been done for the letters and the numbers, but we've done it just for the letters because we didn't need to worry too much about the numbers. But you can see it's got the $ in front of both, and it's being used in both because that means that both of those won't change. So you can do it on both if you want to, or just on the letter. It's up to you. We've done that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it add the offset to the number that we've just generated. Okay, and we're going to use an equals sum, and we're going to add the two things together. So let's hop over onto our spreadsheet and add that in now. Okie dokie. Back into our spreadsheet, and we're going to make it so it's adding together this number and this number. Now, I am not going to use the word sum actually, because I don't think you need to. Sum really is when you want to add more than two things together. So I'm just going to add them just as a simple formula. So remember, equals first. We're going to click on the offset on the number that we want to add first. We're going to do the character number plus the offset. Now, we want the offset to stay the same because when we're going to use our fill handle, we don't want that to change because that's what we want to keep it the same. So we're going to pop in our $ again, and we're going to put that in front of the letter and the number. There we go. So I pop the $ in, I press enter, and you can see it's added those two things together. And I'm going to use my fill handle again. Remember, that's the little square in the bottom right hand corner. Drag all the way across. And this time, you'll notice that there'll be a few bits that you might need to resize, and there are also where the spaces are, you'll need to go in and delete those. But this time we've got a few where there isn't a number at all. So what do you think's going on with those? I wonder, can you spot what's going on with those? Okay, let's have a look and see. Oops, didn't mean to press pause. That's the one I meant to press. So can you work out what's going on with those? Are there more than 26 letters in the alphabet? You might want to use your cypher wheel and just see if you can work out what's going on with this. What do you think might be the problem? Have you spotted it? Very good. It's where the letter, the actual number for the letter plus the offset has pushed it to more than 26. So we need to get the computer to ask a question at this point. So is that number more than 26? And then we want something to happen. So if statements are really important. So we want to use a if statement to do this. We've talked about if statements in previous workshops. We want to use an if, then, else. So if the weather is fine, then have a barbecue, else do my homework. Or do my home learning maybe. So we need to use an if statement here. We want to say if the number is greater than 26, then we need to take away 26 from the offset so that it returns it back to number 1. Else calculate the offset. So we're going to slightly adapt our formula so that it's able to work this out for us. So we're going to do some clever stuff with our formula. So to make sure it's working, we're going to do it on one of the ones where we know it needs to shift back to the beginning of the formula. To the beginning of the alphabet. So that's what we're going to do next. So this is a little bit trickier than what we've done previously, because we need to go back in and adapt our formula and make it to say that if that particular one is more than 26, then it's going to do a slightly different formula to what we've seen previously. Now, I'm going to find this a little bit useful to actually write the formula out. So if you're wondering what I'm just doing right now, I'm just going to write the formula out on my notepad so that I can remember what it is, so that we can do this together in just a second. So I'm just going to pop it on my notepad. You'll be able to follow along on my screen, or you might want to write it out on a bit of paper like me to make it a little bit easier for popping in. Now, as I did before, I'm only going to worry about putting the absolute cell reference on the letter and not worry too much about the number. What I mean by that is where we have the absolute cell referencing here. So you might want to just that one, not worry too much about the second one. It's up to you. If you want to pop it in, you can do. So if that's more than, this symbol here means more than 26, comma, then J4 plus B1 minus 26, comma, J4 plus B1, close. There we go. So what I've just done is I've just popped it into my notepad so I can copy it from that. So feel free to do that if that's useful for you. So hopping back into the spreadsheet. Okie dokie. So we need to find the places where the formula needs to change. So we're going to go into this one, because that's where we've got an example of the formula going too high. So we're going to say, now it's not J4, this is the one where it's happening for us, it's actually, we're going to do it at the very beginning, because then we can use the formula all the way across. So we're going to say, so we're going to go into the front and we're going to type in if. We need to put a bracket in, because we need to use a bracket this time. So if J4 plus let's change it to B1, is more than 26. Now to get the more than symbol, it's the shift key again, and if you look near the bottom of your keyboard where you've got the comma and the full stop, it's above the full stop, so shift and the full stop key is more than 26, sorry, there you go, you can see it. And if J4 plus, again I'm going to use shift and the plus key, $, oops, B1 is, and then we're going to do minus 26. So remember, I've just written mine down to make it easier. If you've decided that actually you wish you'd written it down, pause the video, go back. J4 plus, and I think I might have written this in the wrong place, I've just realised. In fact, I'm 99% sure I have written it in the wrong place. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. $B1. Right, close brackets. Yes, I have. So if, like me, you've just realised that you're a numpty and you've written it in the wrong place, then feel free to move it. Right, so I'm now, actually no, I haven't written it in the wrong place, that's the right place. I don't know what I'm talking about today, sorry, my brain, it's just gone silly. So that's where we want to put it, because we want to, it's where we're adding the two things together. So we're saying, if J4 plus the character, if it works, or whether it doesn't, if it doesn't work, then we're going to make some changes. So now if we drag across, it should work. That doesn't work quite right, does it? Because actually that's gone to 15 and we don't want it to 15, it should be still saying 19. So I'm going to go back in and just check my formula. So have I made a mistake in my formula? Have a close look, see if you can spot my mistake. What have I done wrong? Can you spot it? Very good. It shouldn't be B1, should it? It should be my offset, which is H1. So I'm going to go in and change that because I've made a mistake. So as usual, it's really easy to make mistakes. So don't panic if you make a mistake. Just go in and make the change and then you can check to see if it's working. Yay, that's correct now. So now I can drag across, and it should mean that it does something correct with them. So, that's still not quite working as it should do, because it's not done anything with these ones. So we need to have another closer look as to why that is. It might mean that it needs to, there we go. So check to see if it's because the letter, the column's not wide enough, and just make them a bit wider to make sure they fit in correctly. There we go. So that's worked perfectly. So now we've got correct character number plus offsets working. So the next thing we're going to do is something to do with our ciphertext. So can you work this one out? What formula do you think we might need to use for this one? Can you work it out? Yeah, we're going to use the same formula as we did earlier with the lookup, but we need to kind of do it in reverse. So I'm going to pop over into the PowerPoint again and show you how to do this. So we're going to do another little bit of clever work where we're going to use an offset again, and we're going to work it out and get it to automatically put the lookup in again. So let's have a look at what this looks like. So this time we're going to go into J26, which is actually the one below. So I'm not quite sure I've got that one selected in my video, in my screenshot. So we're going to go to this one down here where the letter B is in J26, and we're going to use the formula look up J5, and then we're going to do a similar thing to what we did before. But rather than selecting the letters first, we're going to select the numbers first and see if we get it to work correctly. So I'm going to come back out, and then we're going to see if that works. So hopping back into your Excel spreadsheet, let's see if we can add this in. So we're going to do an equal sign. Remember, we always put equals in first, and we're going to do the lookup. We're going to say we want to look up this one here, J5. Oops, what have I forgotten to do? I forgot a bracket, so go back and pop the bracket in, and we're going to do J5, comma, and then we're going to do the lookup. So we want to look up the number this time, so we're going to do the numbers. There we go. Pop the comma in, and then do the letters. You can do them from the bottom up as well, that will work absolutely fine. And we're going to check it's working first. We're going to close the bracket and press enter, and it's automatically generated a new letter for us. So let's just quickly check that there's 7. If we look it up in here, yeah, 7 is equal to G. Good, that's working perfectly. So we're going to use the fill handle again. So what do we need to do to our formula to make it work? We need to pop those dollar signs in. So we do it just on the ranges. Remember, the ranges are where we're selecting more than one cell at once. So I'm going to pop in the dollar signs in front of each of the letters, because it's only the letters that need to change. So popping those in. We like to get the computer to do as much of the hard work as possible. Let's pop one more in. There we go. And we're going to press enter. And then we're going to drag all the way over and see if that's worked. And again, it's got NAs where the spaces are, so we can take them out. And there we go. We've now got an encrypted message with our ciphertext in it. Well done, everybody. Awesome. Right, so let's have a look at what we're going to do next. So the last bit of this is going to be starting to think about popping it back so we get the decrypted version. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. Feel free to pause if you want to, that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all. So quick recap of what we've literally just done. We've popped in a formula to get it to work out it back to a letter for us, and we used a lookup to do that, and then we used the fill handle all the way across to fill it in for us, so we ended up with the messages like this. Excellent. Okay, now if you wanted to stick this all back together so it actually read as a message, you could use the same tool as we did earlier to use using the ampersand to fill that in. I'm going to very quickly show you how to do that. If you want to add that in yourself, feel free. If you don't want to do this, that's fine. You can wait, and we'll carry on with the next part in a moment. So if you want to do that, we can use the ampersand again, remember, to make it stick the letters together. So we'll have like a proper sentence of our secret message. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Don't feel you have to do it. So this is our encrypted. Encrypted message. And remember, all you have to do is select the cell where you want it to go, pop in the equal sign, and you do one letter at a time, remember, with an ampersand between each one. So if you want to do that, to stick it together and make it look like a proper message, this is what you do. Now, I'm just going to do one because I'm feeling I don't want to spend too much time doing this, but obviously you'd go all the way along. I'm just going to do one word just to make it, just to show you, to make it a bit quicker. Okay, so there's our first word. And also then I'd carry on and I'd do the space and another one. And just work your way across like that. Okay, then, so it's correcting my formula. If it asks you to do that, just press yes. And it's filled it in there, yeah. Okay, now you might notice that it's actually got rid of the space completely. So what you need to do for that is actually just put a space in there. So go into that cell and actually type a space in, because that will allow a space to appear in your message. Okay, that's because a blank cell literally has nothing in it, not even a space. So you'll need to go in and just pop the spaces in. So that's how you pop your encrypted message in. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to do next. So hopping back into our presentation. Okay, so we've pretty much done everything now. So we've now got our message all fully written in, and we can start to think about the next step, which is how we decode our message. So let's have a look at what we're going to do for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something called copy and paste special, and we're going to paste the messages into the ciphertext row below, and then we're going to think about what we're going to do next. So again, we're going to get the computer to do some of the heavy lifting for us to make it a little bit easier for us to do the next section. So we're going to do ciphertext. So I'm going to quickly type in ciphertext into here. So remember, you can use CY or CI, actually doesn't make any difference. So ciphertext, I'm going to copy by highlighting all of this row. Remember, I'm just clicking and holding with my mouse like I showed you earlier. I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to do copy. Then I'm going to click where I want it to go, the first cell of where I want it to go. Do a right click and you're going to do paste special. And you want to paste the values. Okay, so you want to paste the values. So that will pop in the letters that you want to include. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So paste special. So just very quickly repeat that. So highlight what you want to select. Remember, click and hold to do that. Right click on what you selected. Go to copy. Select where you want it to go. Then right click and you're going to use paste special. Whoops, sorry, I'm not quite in the middle of the cell, so it doesn't quite understand what I'm trying to do. And paste special, and it's the values. If it doesn't give you the option for paste special, it's the one with the 1, 2, 3 on it. Okay, so pop that in there. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to think about how we actually decode that message. So we've popped in the message into our spreadsheet. Now we're going to use a similar formula to what we did before to work out the character number. So we're going to use the same formula as we did before, and we're going to do a lookup just like we did previously, and we're going to pop that in now. So you should be able to do this because it's something that we've already done. We're going to do a lookup to work out the number value of our letters. So let's pop that in here. So this is going to be the character number. So we're doing the same thing kind of but in reverse. So character number. And we're going to pop that in here. So exactly the same as before. We do an equal sign first because we're going to do a formula, and we want to do a lookup of this one, and we want to look up the letter. So we're going to highlight all the letters. Oh, I've forgotten something again. What have I forgotten? Very good. I forgot to put the lookup in, didn't I? So I'm going to just pop that in now. So you can highlight things and you can add things into the formula by just selecting. I'm going to pop lookup in and I'm going to put the bracket in. There we go. Now I'm going to do automatically the $sign because we know that we're going to need to use that to make it an absolute cell reference. So pop the $signs in, pop in a comma, and then we're going to select the numbers. So selecting those numbers, and I'm going to pop in the $sign again to make it an absolute cell reference. Remember, that means it doesn't move when we use the fill handle. There we go. We're going to close the bracket and press the enter key on your keyboard, and then we're going to use the fill handle all the way across, same as before, and just delete the empty ones. There we go. Excellent. Feel free to pause if you need to. So we've just used the same formula as we did previously. Look up, we're looking up this one, and we want to look it up in the letters and then compare it to the numbers, remember. Okay, So hopefully you've popped that one in. Let's see what we're going to have a go at doing next. So once we've got that in there, we want to do, we've already done that. We've done the drag handle, haven't we? We've done that bit, so we can move on to the next. We want to do the, instead of doing the plus the offset, we want to do minus this time. So if we were going to do this really simply, we could do just the character number minus the offset. And that would work absolutely fine for one, and we could do it if we were going to do one cell at a time. But actually we don't want to do one cell at a time. We want to do it again by asking a question. So we're going to ask that question again. We're going to use an if statement again, but this time instead of looking to see if it's over 26, we're going to do something slightly different. So let's have a look at what we're going to do for this. So if the number is less than 1, we need to add 26 this time, so it returns back to the number 1. Otherwise, we just calculate the offset as normal. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did before to make this a little bit easier for myself. I've got my notepad and pen. I'm going to copy that formula down before I start to try to type it into my spreadsheet to make it a bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to just copy it into my notepad, and I need a new page to do that. So I'm going to do if J11 minus, this time I'm going to type it in correctly. So remember before I typed in, I accidentally typed in B1, didn't I? Remember? I made to put it in correctly as H1 this time. So I remembered this time. So H1, so J11 minus the $ H1. Remember the $ tells us that it is a absolute cell reference that won't move when we use the fill handle. And this symbol this time, you might notice it's the opposite way round to before. That means it's a less than symbol. So if it's less than 1, then we do the next one. J11 minus $H1 plus 26. So that means that's what's going to happen. So if J11 minus the offset is less than 1, then do this. Otherwise, do that. That's what it means. Okay, so we're going to do J11 minus $H1. Okay, so I've got my formula written out. There it is, written out, and I'm going to copy that into my spreadsheet now. So let's hop into the spreadsheet, and we're going to fill that in where it needs to go. So we this time have the character number. Oops, I missed the letter A out this time. Character number minus the offset. So a bit different to the previous time. And I'm going to get the formula that I've copied out onto my pad. I'm going to type that in now. Okay. So I'm going to do equals, open my bracket, do if first, if, then open my brackets. And I want to say if J11 minus the offset. And remember, we want to make the offset a absolute cell reference. I'm going to pop in the $ in front. So if that is less than, the less than symbol is a shift key, and it's the comma key this time. If it's less than 1, then what we're going to do is we're going to do J11. So you can type it in or you can select it. Minus, we do the $ again. Whee, there it is, $H1. So, oh yeah, minus H1, and then we're going to do add to that. So plus 26. Otherwise, we will just do J11 minus, pop that $ in because we don't want H1 to move accidentally, H1. There we go. So we can say if J11 minus the offset is less than 1, then we're going to do J11, take away the offset, but add 26 to it. Otherwise, we're just going to take away the offset. So we're going to press enter. Remember, it automatically puts our closing bracket in for us, and then we can use the fill handle again all the way across, and you should see it's popped it all in for you. Again, delete where the spaces are just to tidy it up a little bit. Okay, so we're very nearly there now. Can you work out what we're going to do next? Yeah, you've got it. So instead of ciphertext, we're going to have our plain text as our last bit, which will be just our message, which is readable at the bottom here. Okay, so let's hop across and have a look at how we're going to do that next. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Let's think. You might have already got it and have an idea yourself. Let's see if your idea was correct. So what we're going to do is we are going to use that lookup again. So thinking about using a lookup, this lookup, the same as before. We're not going to use the more complicated thing using the stars in there. We're just going to worry about using the lookup part of it. So we're going to do the lookup and say if we look up the letter, and then we can compare it to our columns, and it will fill it in as a letter again instead of a number. So let's pop that into our spreadsheet. Okay, so we're going to pop in our plain text now. So we're going to say equals lookup, pop that lookup in again, and we're going to say we're going to look up this one this time, and we're going to be looking it up in the numbers because it's a number. We're going to pop in the $sign to say that it's an absolute cell reference. Oops. Let's pop that in. Oh, it doesn't like it if I put the $sign in first, so I'm going to come back and put that in after. So I'm going to select all of that. That's it. We can then pop in the other column to say that's what we want it to be converted back into. Pop that in there. And we're going to pop in our $signs to make them absolute again. Remember, it needs to go in front of the letters, so I need to do it on both parts, the beginning and the end of the range. There we go. And then I close my bracket and press enter, and it's converted it back to a letter C. So let's check if it's working. So if we go all the way across, we should have our original message, and just take out the spaces again. There we go. Oh, that one doesn't look quite right though, does it? That's not done what it should do. So we need to check what's going on there. So something's not working quite as it should do at that end. So that might be something that we need to look at and just see if we can work out why that's not working. But everything else is working. Computing is good for, but instead of Y, it's coming up with a V. So what's going on there? I think it's to do with the offset not working quite as it should do. So I reckon that we need to change something slightly. I wonder if something not quite right there. I'm not actually going to tell you a solution. I'm going to let you play around with that and see if you can work out what's going on and why it needs to convert that and what it needs to do to make that correct. So experiment, see if you can get that coming up correctly, because everything else is working perfectly. So something's not quite right there. So as before, you can do your decrypted version here. So decrypted message. And we can stick it all back together using that ampersand, concatenate it back together, remember? So we just use the ampersand between each letter to stick it all back together. There we go, all the way across. And as we did before, where you got spaces, you'll need to go in and actually type in a space in the message, because it won't actually recognise it as a space otherwise. Oops, I've done a slight mistake somewhere, so it's telling me, do I accept the correction? Yes, I do. And then you can see computing. Okay, so there we have it. We have completed a spreadsheet that works out from the code wheel, and it takes the original text, it encrypts it, and it creates a decrypted message. Very, very well done. Feel free to pause, go back, see if you can work out why that's not quite working as it should do. See if you can work out a solution to get it working correctly. So as I said, I'm going to leave that in there. See if you can work out how to do it correctly, and why not send me a message on Twitter or on Facebook with what you did to come up with a solution for getting that to work correctly. That'd be really interesting to see how you work out that little bug that we've got going on there. Okay, so we've pretty much finished what we're going to do today in our actual presentation. But the very last bit of what I'd like you to do is to have a go at solving our little murder mystery. So we've got the clues in our case file document. So you saw this earlier, I showed you on the visualizer at the very beginning. You've got your case file, you've completed the work in this workshop, so you can pop in your little picture because you are now a crime scene investigator, and you can fill in your CSI badge with the details of yourself, make up a number for your badge number, pop your name, your school and your signature in there, pop a little picture of yourself in there, because you are now in our CSI team, and you're going to be solving the clues in our case file document to solve a murder. Very, very well done. So today, in this workshop, you've learnt about the structures of a spreadsheet, including columns, rows and cell references. You've looked at simple formula within a spreadsheet and you've used cell references. You've looked at the Boolean and how it's used within spreadsheets. You've also looked at the transposition cipher and you've used a spreadsheet to do that. And then you created a spreadsheet to encrypt and decrypt data. You've used some lookups and some if statements to create a more effective encryption technique. Very, very well done. I'll give you a little bit of information. Some of what you've done in your spreadsheet is stuff that I normally would have taught at A level. So very, very well done if you managed to follow that along, because it's quite tricky, especially that second spreadsheet. So very, very well done to you. As usual, we're going to have a little look at a sneaky peek of what we're going to be doing next time. While I'm doing that, have a little think about if there's any questions that you want to ask in the chat today, and I'll have a look at those and I'll answer any questions that you might have in a moment. But I'll do a quickly sneaky peek of next week's workshops while I'm waiting for any questions to come in. So pop in those questions if you've got questions for me. So what we're going to be doing next time is we're going to be creating a paper prototype for an app, and these are the ideas that we're going to be looking at, and you're about to choose one of them and come up with a paper prototype for it. So that's Chore Attack. It's going to be inspiring work-shy kids and flatmates to do their share of the housework, maybe appropriate at the moment. Crypto Connects, which is going to be code breaking. So maybe you want to think about creating your own app version of the spreadsheet that you've done today. Pocket Money Pig, which is about saving money. Save Nav, which is about navigating your streets with confidence with up-to-date police data. A Cattle Manager, about tracking and managing cattle on a farm. Dog Log, which is going to be walking your dog and competing with friends. The Story Wall, which is all about collaborative storytelling. Pitch Pals, which is about animal characters and making musical tuning fun. Shorecast, which is about finding the best place to surf. And Buzzer Buddies, which is a unique alarm system. So that's what we're going to be doing next time. If you are going to be joining me next time for our workshop, that's on Tuesday next week. So that's a sneaky peek for next time. So any questions? I don't think we've got any in the chat today. So I'm just going to be going through the answers to the case file next. So if you don't want to look at the answers, you might want to pause your stream now. So be aware that's exactly what I'm just about to go through. This has been Cryptography Secrets. I hope you've enjoyed looking at how to convert this to a spreadsheet. As I said, quite complex, some of what we've done today. Very, very well done for following along with me. We are going to now go through the answers. So pause the stream now if you don't want to know the answers to the case file, because that's exactly what I'm just going to go through now. So answer to clue 1 was the murderer left one of their earrings at the first murder scene. The answer to clue 2 was that Poppy found strands of dark hair on the gun in Peepo's hand. The next clue 3 was the spotlight was reflecting in the murderer's glasses. Clue 4 had to be read in a mirror, and it said that they saw a short person running away from the caravan. Clue 5 was that the murderer had a black moustache. Clue 6 was the number is 29. Clue 7, the shoe size was 8. And you can see the area has been filled in there. So 34, 36, 39, 43, 48, 54, 61, 69, 78 and 88. And the way that worked was a pattern. So the amount of numbers between each one went up by 1 each time. So between 34 and 36, there was 2. Between 36 and 39, there was 3. Between 39 and 43, there was 4, and so on and so forth. And it went up by 1 each time. And that was all of the clues. So I'm very quickly going to pop in all the answers into our suspect database and see if we have a murderer, and we can then go and arrest our murderer. So let me go and have a look at what we ended up with. So let me get my suspect database up. Here we go. Here is our suspect database, and I'm going to go through and just filter everything according to the clues that we found. So as I said a moment ago, the first clue that we had was telling us that they had an earring. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and filter in here and get rid of anybody that doesn't have an earring. So I'm going to say yes to earring, and click OK. And that filters that one. The next clue, I'm actually getting my case file and just checking my answers here. So the next clue was to do with the strands of dark hair. So that tells us that the person has dark hair. So our hair colour is dark. So let's do that. We've now got rid of quite a number of our people in our database. The next one was about it reflecting in the glasses. So we're going to go in and say, yes, the murderer is wearing glasses, not dark glasses, sorry. And say yes. So we're again filtering down again. Our next clue was our reversed one, and that told us that the person was short. So we can go into height and we can say that the person was short. That didn't filter anything out that time. Our next clue was about, I need to remind myself what our next clue. Let's have a quick look and have a see what clue 5 was. I can't remember. Clue 5 was that the murderer had a black moustache. So let's go and have a look at how we are going to see our people now. So the clue was that the murderer had a black moustache. And let's hop back in and do that. So we need to go and say that the murderer had a moustache. So we can do facial hair and strip it down to having a moustache. There we go. So left with just 2 people. And finally, we knew that the person had a shoe size of 8. And we're left with Drago the Dashing, the knife thrower. He was our murderer. So very well done if you managed to follow that through and you've just checked and found out that you were quite right, that Drago the Dashing was our murderer in that little mini murder scene. So very well done to you if you managed to follow along with that as well. This is Cryptography Secrets, Secrets, Secrets. Very well done to you if you followed along with us today. Thank you for taking part. I hope you've had fun and learnt something new. If you have enjoyed this workshop, check out our YouTube channel for more follow along activities. If you've got any questions or feedback for me, please email dsh@ukie.org.uk. Now, we'd love to see you learning computing at home with Digital Schoolhouse. Parents and guardians, please feel free to share any images or videos using the hashtag computing at home. You can do that on Twitter or on Facebook. And as I said earlier, if you work out how to solve my little bug in our program, please do let me have a screenshot and show me how you solved that. Also, for those of you who love writing, Digital Schoolhouse have launched a creative writing competition, which you can find more information about on our website. If you're a parent of a primary aged pupil and are interested in finding out about how Digital Schoolhouse can work with your child's school, you can find out more about our programme on our website, digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. You can find our contact information in the section below or at the end of this video. Lastly, I wanted to say a huge well done for taking part today. I'm Estelle and I look forward to seeing you next time.